Throughout history, the world has been on the brink of destruction many times. From the edge of nuclear war to the terrifying unknown of natural disasters, humanity has repeatedly faced extinction. But each time, against all odds, we survived. This is the story of 10 times the world almost ended, but it didn't. These moments should have been the end, but through quick thinking, sheer luck, and sometimes extraordinary decisions, we're still here. Number 10. The 2003 Iraq Invasion, WMD Scare. In 2003, the US and its allies launched an invasion of Iraq under the belief that Iraq possessed weapons of mass destruction, WMDs. The situation quickly escalated, and the possibility of a much broader global conflict loomed. Tensions were high across the globe. Many feared that this was the spark that would ignite World War III. The fear of a nuclear or chemical strike from Saddam Hussein's regime had nations preparing for the worst. In the US, there was a heightened sense of alert, with both military and civilian sectors bracing for a catastrophic retaliation. The world stood on edge. But as the war progressed, no WMDs were found. Intelligence had been faulty, and the invasion led to regional instability rather than the massive global catastrophe many had feared. World War narrowly averted. Number 9. The 2012 Mayan apocalypse hoax. In 2012, the world was gripped by one of the biggest hoaxes in modern history. According to a misinterpretation of the ancient Mayan calendar, December 21, 2012, was supposed to be the date when the world would end. Doomsday predictions flooded the media. From massive solar flares to planetary alignments, people around the world believed that this was the end. Panic spread as theories about the Mayan apocalypse went viral, pushing people to prepare for a global catastrophe. Scientists, of course, reassured the public that there was no basis for these fears. But the hysteria continued to spread, with thousands of people preparing for the worst, even building underground bunkers. As December 21 came and went, the world didn't end. But the widespread panic revealed just how easily fear could manipulate the masses, showing us just how fragile our perception of reality can be in times of uncertainty. Number 8. The Fukushima nuclear crisis, 2011. March 11, 2011 began like any other day in Japan, but at 2:46 p.m., a massive earthquake struck the northeastern coast of Japan, followed by a devastating tsunami that engulfed entire towns. The tsunami waves reached up to 133 feet and caused widespread destruction, killing nearly 20,000 people and leaving thousands more displaced. But the devastation didn't stop there. The Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant was damaged during the disaster, and its cooling systems failed, leading to 3 reactor meltdowns. A nuclear crisis was unfolding. The risk of a widespread radioactive contamination was so severe that millions of people were evacuated from the area. For a brief moment, it seemed like the disaster could spiral into something far worse, a nuclear catastrophe that could impact not just Japan, but the entire globe. Through tireless efforts from workers who stayed behind to contain the disaster and global aid, the worst was avoided. But the threat of radioactive fallout hung over the world for months. Fukushima could have triggered a nuclear disaster of unprecedented scale, but humanity once again managed to avoid the brink of annihilation. Number 7. The 1983 NATO War Games Scare. In 1983, NATO conducted a military exercise called Able Archer, simulating a nuclear war scenario. However, the Soviets, already paranoid about a potential US nuclear strike, misinterpreted the exercise as a real launch. Fake attack? Soviets saw real war. For several days, Soviet leaders prepared their forces for retaliation. Nuclear weapons were readied, and the world was just a hair's breadth away from nuclear war. It was only after the Soviets realized that it was a drill, not a real attack, that the immediate threat was quelled. But for a brief moment, the world was on the verge of nuclear conflict, all because of a miscommunication during a military exercise. Number 6. The Black Death. The Black Death, one of the deadliest pandemics in human history, wiped out nearly a third of Europe's population in just a few years. Known as the bubonic plague, it was spread by fleas carried by rats in the mid-14th century. The symptoms were high fever, painful swellings, vomiting blood, and death within days if not hours. The plague traveled from Asia to Europe via trade ships. The death toll was so high that proper burials became impossible. Mass graves were dug to dispose of the countless bodies. Although the Black Death eventually faded, it reshaped Europe's social, economic, and religious landscape forever. Number 5. The Chelyabinsk meteor, 2013. On February 15, 2013, a meteor exploded over Chelyabinsk, Russia. The meteor, which was about 66 feet wide, released an estimated 470 kilotons of energy, about 30 times the energy of the Hiroshima bomb. The blast sent shockwaves through the region, injuring over 1,500 people and causing widespread damage. But here's the thing: this meteor could have been much worse. If it had been just a bit larger, or if it had exploded closer to the ground, the destruction could have been catastrophic. Thankfully, the meteor exploded high in the atmosphere, and its size prevented it from causing the widespread devastation that could have wiped out an entire city, or even more. Still, it was a stark reminder of how vulnerable Earth is to impacts from space objects. Number 4. The 1967 Israeli nuclear scare. During the 1967 Six-Day War, Israel found itself surrounded by hostile Arab nations. Israel was on the verge of being overwhelmed, and military leaders seriously considered deploying nuclear weapons as a last-ditch effort to prevent annihilation. The tension was so high that the Israeli military prepared their nuclear arsenal, ready to strike in the face of what seemed like imminent destruction. But in the end, Israel did not launch its nuclear weapons. The war ended with a decisive victory for Israel, and the use of nuclear weapons was avoided. Had Israel used its nuclear arsenal, the region and possibly the entire world could have been thrust into a devastating conflict. Number 3. The Y2K bug. As the year 2000 approached, the world was consumed with fear about the Y2K bug. The concern was that computer systems, which use two-digit formats to represent years, the 99 from the date 1999, would fail to recognize the year 2000 as a valid date, leading to crashes, blackouts, and economic chaos. It was believed that planes could fall from the sky, bank accounts could be wiped out, and infrastructure could collapse. Governments and corporations spent billions of dollars to prepare for the worst, but when the clock struck midnight on December 31, 1999, the world didn't collapse. The Y2K bug, while real, didn't bring about the catastrophic meltdown that many had feared. The world had narrowly avoided chaos thanks to global cooperation and swift action. Number 2. The Tunguska Event 1908. On June 30, 1908, an explosion rocked Siberia, leveling an estimated 800 square miles of forest. The explosion, believed to have been caused by the airburst of a comet or asteroid, released energy equivalent to 10 to 15 megatons of TNT. While the blast was huge, there were no confirmed casualties, and the region was sparsely populated. But what if this explosion had happened over a major city? The event demonstrated just how fragile Earth is to impacts from space. Had the object been larger or hit in a more populated area, the consequences could have been disastrous. Fortunately, the Tunguska event was a near miss, reminding us how close we are to cosmic hazards. Number 1. The Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. October of 1962 was one of the most dangerous moments in modern history. The Soviet Union secretly placed nuclear missiles in Cuba just 90 miles from the U.S. shore. The U.S. discovered the missiles, and the world teetered on the brink of nuclear war. President John F. Kennedy and Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev stood face to face in one of the most critical standoffs ever. But at the last minute, Soviet submarine commander Vasily Arkhipov made a critical decision. Despite orders to launch nuclear torpedoes, he refused. His calm judgment prevented a nuclear strike, saving the world from what would have been the most catastrophic war in human history. From false alarms to disasters averted, these close calls show us just how fragile our existence is. Yet, time and time again, humanity's quick thinking, cooperation, and sheer luck have saved us from the brink of annihilation. While we may not be out of the woods, for now, the world is still here.